Is Jack Bicknell on borrowed time at West Virginia? There are a lot of reasons and signs that point to yes.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. Welcome back into Locked On West Virginia. It's been a great weekend for the most part, even though we lost Saturday. I think we played well, and I was happy for the most part, if you want to count moral victories, which a lot of people don't. I understand why. I'm going to go ahead and count them because it's the situation we're in. We're still recruiting at a high level, guys, so things are really good right now. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at Game Time, guys. Make sure you head over to Game Time, download the account, and you can get $20 off your first purchase. So you want to do that over at Game Time for sure, guys. And let me change this background out. That was the last thing I needed to do. So here's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to give my final thoughts on the Kevin Brown stuff, which will be happening on Pat McAfee's show. Our next potential 5-star, he's a 98 grade, whatever, 4-star. Pro Football Focus scores for Arizona State. How did guys perform? And obviously what I'm hearing on Jack Bicknell, offensive line coach for West Virginia. That's what we're talking about. So to get started, I think the best place to start is with Rich Rodriguez in his post-game press conference yesterday. If you haven't seen it, I can't play it, but Rich Rodriguez was very upset, and after the game, maligned the fact that they could not get a foot, and he mentioned it about 10 times. I don't know how many times, but if you see the thumbnail, him doing this, that's me taking a screenshot of him doing that. So, he was obviously upset, and short yardage was the reason we lost that football game, even more so than the calls themselves, because you should be able to get that much. So here's what I'm hearing. Obviously we know that West Virginia Rich Rodriguez and company got this job a little bit late into the cycle, and they had to make certain plays, right? Especially once they realized that Mr. Trickett wasn't going to come down and be the offensive line coach for Rich Rod again. I think they obviously things happen fast in this world, right? All of a sudden, Koldenicki's not coming, and Ren's on an airplane to see. That was a weird stretch, but it was like he was on an airplane to see Rich Rod one day. He was on a plane to go see to Columbus to see their wide receivers coach. The next day, and it was like, man, what's going to happen here? And then obviously Rich Rod was hired, and we started hearing things about that shortly thereafter. So with that, Rich Rod found out he wasn't going to have the guy he's always pretty much had outside of a couple stops here. One of those stops being Ole Miss, where Vicnell came in and they actually had a pretty good year, although they lost a lot. So, factor that in under Matt Luke. So when Rich Rod figured that out, obviously he had to go and make a different play. Well, Garin Justice would have been a Zach Alley type pull from SMU, considering what he makes, which is right around $2 million, which is one of the highest paid offensive linemen in the sport, offensive line coaches. He also co-offensive coordinator. And you're already bringing in Zach Alley, paying him a bunch of money. So what do? Well, you go get the most experienced guy you can find that that you can get to conform to your culture and do things like you think you need to. And that's where you enter Jack Bicknell. Unfortunately, things have not been what we hoped they would be, and there are a myriad of reasons. It's not all Jack Bicknell's fault, not even close. But some of it does rest on Jack Bicknell, and I think in order for this team to take another step next year, you're going to probably have to make the separation. I got this text today from a certain person that is let me just say, very close in the program. I don't know how to say this without giving it away, but obviously this prompted me to do the video, this message, and then other messages that I just can't show. This is the most tame one that I can show. That's like, and it says, "I wish Rich would cut him loose now." It's talking about Vicnell. The assistant O-line Dressler could pull this group together. The O-line room is a mess with Vicnell. Oops. I'm clicking all kinds of buttons here. So, you know, basically what's going on is there are certain guys that are getting chances. We wondered why Xavier Bosley hasn't played. Well, there are other people that wonder that too. And we wondered why the same starting five went out week after week after week after week after week for 8 or 9 weeks, even through a 5-game losing streak. Well, there are a lot of other people that wondered that too. And then you look out yesterday, and who's starting at right guard? It's Kiwa Makaniole again, alongside Tyke Crawford, who have proven to be a really bad pair on the right side of the offensive line. They've absolutely improved and gotten better over the course of this year, as teams do. But let's not pretend like it's been smooth sailing. Scotty Fox got sacked multiple times. We got stopped in short yardage multiple times. Part of that's on Arizona State. You give them credit where it's due, absolutely. But those two have made a lot of mistakes this year and brought this offensive line down. And I'm totally understanding that Vicnell is managing the talent he has. But what I can't get is why Young Bear on the right side was a good thing. It worked out really good for us against Houston. We had 250 rushing yards versus a very similar defense as Arizona State by numbers, by everything. And then the next week we're thinking, okay, so this is the new offensive line. No, it's back to normal again the next week. Except Young Bear's not on the field at all anymore. Very rarely, anyways. I mean, it's they did rotate guys in and out yesterday, so it's like not 100%. But Kimo Makaniole is one of those guys that I've kind of been on all year as the weak link in the offensive line room. It's just the truth. I hate to, like I've said multiple times, you listen to the kid's interviews. I love his story coming from being made to choose defensive line at LSU. There's a reason they put him on the defensive line at LSU. Yes, it's an elite place to play football, but there's a reason that it wasn't working out on the offensive line. It just wasn't. And that's before you even get into the fact that I've got a list of things here. His career record is a losing record as a coach. He's got so many losing seasons, it's almost hard to keep track. He's the head coach. His head coaching record has been bad. His offensive line coaching record is bad. They've got a couple 7-8 win years in his career as a coach. He's got 0 top 25 O-line units ever in 30 years of coaching. Ever. Rich Rod, he said, we couldn't block anybody, couldn't get a foot, couldn't sustain blocks. You've got, leaks coming in from people that are upset about the room. And even there was another message that said that room will all be in the portal if he's back next year for the most part. Now, do they know this? I don't know if they know that every single person is going to be in the portal. But I do think that there will be some guys that aren't happy, obviously. There have been times this year where I don't understand why Bosley hasn't played. I don't know the ins and outs there, but I still can't get that. It's a kid that was a freshman All-American that was an all-conference player. I mean, I get it. Sometimes guys just don't transfer, but it's like it'd be different if these guys were playing average or something, and maybe they weren't great, and we're like, maybe the next guy could be better. No, in this situation, you couldn't have been worse. I mean, we weren't already moving the football. We had 5 straight 3-and-outs against Kansas. 5 straight 3-and-outs is really hard to do, even for bad teams. And we did that. And we had to be stripped down to bare bones to spare parts to where we had to finally make changes. And that's where you enter in some other changes that were finally made. Donovan Haslam being one of the bigger ones. I mean, nobody. I get it. Your rotations are they're gonna suck from time to time, right? They are. They're gonna suck, but you got to figure it out sooner than week 10. And then you've got obviously the article from Troy Montgomery from April, where former Pittsburgh offensive lineman John Malecki said this dude sucked. This is an NFL offensive lineman putting an article out on our offensive line coach saying this dude sucked. Former Steelers offensive line talks utter turmoil former coach Jack Bicknell Jr. brought to Pittsburgh. And then you start looking around and you see, well, God, this guy's been everywhere. He must be a great coach. No, it could also be the antithesis. It could also be the opposite, right? I know those words mean the same things. I like the word antithesis. Don't judge me. But in all seriousness, this dude's been around for a while because there's something that's not working here. I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm sure it's probably not technique related. It's something other than this, okay, when I was in boot camp in the Marine Corps, there was a drill instructor that could get a lot out of me. When I was 18, I had a lot of issues like with self-confidence and stuff. It's a long story, but there was a certain guy that could get me to perform really well, sometimes at like a squad leader level where they did have me as a squad leader at one point in time. And then they literally fired him from the job, not the Marines. They just put him somewhere else. And somebody else came in, and obviously that I fell back. I just wasn't motivated the same way. This guy was physically abusive to me. He broke my nose with the buttstock of a rifle. He punched me in the stomach. He grabbed me by the collar and threw me against the wall. And I'm talking about like you see in WWE, like when they throw him into the steps, like it looked like, he tried to smash my head off the wall. So anyways, it's not about me. I'm just saying how you motivate people matters. And I've been hearing that he doesn't motivate people very good. So do you hold this against Jack Bicknell? That's the question I have for you today. Do you hold it against him? And this is a picture of an article where the headline says, "This dude sucked," for those of you listening. And does this matter? This is a picture of Kevin Brown with West Virginia gloves on. It's a big deal, right? Because the number one offensive line recruit in the country potentially that's going to be announcing on the Pat McAfee show needs to know who his offensive line coach is. And is this the right time to do this? Is this the right time to have this conversation? Will some people be mad at me for having this conversation around this time? We'll talk about that next. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. And look, here at FanDuel, it's a simple thing. The NBA is back, right? Then there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets if that's your thing into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is making and giving $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins, but you can't win if you don't play. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so let's continue this conversation. In segment 2, where I crack a water dew, I know it's shocking. I'm drinking water. I might fall over from the healthiness. Get that healthiness out of here. And what'd you eat for dinner, Paul? Oh, just chicken and broccoli. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. So you guys know I've been on a weight loss, and I have lost some. It's just I don't know if you're going to be able to tell on somebody that's a little bigger like me, but yeah, I have lost like 12 or 13 pounds. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to keep trying. Since I actually saw results, I guess maybe it does work when you don't drink pop every day. although I do still drink one here and there. All right, so we were in the discussion about Vicnell a little bit. Let's keep on going on that for a second because we may as well pull this up, right, and show this, obviously. I'm not. Listen, guys, I'm really not trying to hone in on just one guy. It's just anytime you beat your head against the wall, over something so many times, I start to question, like, okay, what's really going on here? So this is a screenshot of just one player's score for now. We'll get to others, and the others aren't much better. But on the offensive line, guess who had the worst day? I bet you probably can't guess. No, but and that's my face when it comes to that. Let me get it pulled in here. Let me get it in here, and I'll show you guys really quick. Could just tell you, I guess, but I like the visual aid. Kimo Macaniole, 57.6 offensive line grade PFF. So I don't understand the justification for it other than that just he's living and dying with the guys he has. I don't know. But now we have to get into this is just another data point, right? I'm putting on the board here. All these different reasons. And if you haven't been keeping track, career losing record as a coach that spans literally dozens of different places, it seems like. Probably like 10 or 12 places he's been. You've got John Malecki, former Steelers offensive lineman, who said, this dude sucked. He brought complete and utter turmoil to the room. He couldn't get it together. He was politicking, ghosting players, and had no trust. Keep in mind that he did cut Malecki, so there could be bad blood, but still, he was there for years before that. The West Virginia current offensive line situation is not great. It's improved, but it's like saying that, instead of eating crap this week, I drank pee or something. You know what I'm saying? It's still bad. It's a horrible reference. But and then there's obviously Rich Rod and him being mad after the game, talking about we couldn't get a foot. I'm getting texts from people that are amazing. I don't know how to word it. Inside the room, saying they'd rather have Dressler and May go into the portal. And then you have really the only data point that I can think of or put on the board in favor of Vicnell, and that is literally one person, maybe two if you consider Cam Goforth. Kevin Brown, the number 3 interior offensive lineman prospecting the entire nation, and most people consider him to be a 5-star player. I had a recruiting guy on here that said he's a 5-star player. I've talked to other recruiting guys that say he should be a 5-star player. Nobody knows why he doesn't get that last tenth of a point. If he went to Ohio State, he probably would. It doesn't really matter, does it? At the end of the day, he's a life-changing. He's going to start as a true freshman wherever he goes. Game-changing type of player for the Mountaineers. Now, I think that situation is – I feel like recruits that are coming to this school right now are more sold on Rich Rod and the vision he has than they are on the offensive line coach. So I don't think Bicknell, if he were to be let go, I don't think it would impact it. But it is a little worrisome. I won't lie. It's not something to completely ignore. Yeah. It's not something you can completely ignore. So I'm kind of at a breaking point with it. I think I've seen plenty of it, more than enough. And he seems like a nice guy, right? It's like I struggle with this job because I actually liked Vicnell when I heard him talk, just like I liked Neil Brown a lot. Like I really liked Neil Brown, as a lot of us did. But you get to a point to where it's like this. I've been in relationships before where the girls told me it's never been me, but it's never been me saying this. It's always been them saying this to me because I was crazy for years, as you guys know. Listen, I'm in love with you. Like I can't get enough, but I have to make a choice of like my happiness or this toxic thing. And I feel like it's similar in this situation. Like, really like the guy, but I can't choose it over the West Virginia Mountaineers winning in the future. And also can't, and you also can't just choose to keep him over one player either. I want to say that too. Even if that one player is Kevin Brown. And I know people will hate me for saying that, but you can't keep one coach for one player. That's ever, especially if you feel like that guy's just not the guy. Right. So I do want to point that out because I think it's important to point out, even if it's that guy. So, there's a bunch of different ways you can look at it, but I would just say, Kevin Brown is a generational recruit that we could probably never get again or very rarely would. But I am of the belief system that you don't ever keep a coach for any number of players, really, rarely, unless you've got a national championship team put together or something, because that's the whole goal is to win a natty. So, like, if you're going to lose a bunch of players on a national championship team over a coach, then maybe that's some pretty good leverage because what else are you doing it for but to win the natty? But outside of that, yeah. So those are my thoughts on it. I don't know how you guys all feel. I know this is most people are and I've seen the comments, like, I haven't seen anybody defending Dressler at all, or not Dressler, but Vicnell. Jay McClanahan asking in the comments, who is his, that's the thing. So I guess I didn't clarify it better earlier, or if maybe you weren't in here, but when Rich Rod got this job, the assumption pretty much college sports wide was that Trickett was going to come with him from Jack State, who was obviously here at West Virginia with him and has been with him for most of, if not all of his career. And unfortunately for West Virginia, one of Trickett's sons, Clint Trickett, got a job at Jacksonville State. And so choosing to coach with his son, which I totally understand, West Virginia job got turned down. He also said publicly, I don't want to coach at a place where the players make more than I do. He's also in his late 70s, I believe, which we can look that up, I'm sure. But, so there's a lot of reasons why we're in the situation with Vicnell, obviously. But, we're here. And it's one of those things that I think it's not like Rich Rod's not aware of this. This is kind of an elephant in the room. And I do think it'll be dealt with. He's also, I'm pretty sure he was on a 1-year deal, but don't quote me on that. I tried to research it, couldn't really find it right before the show. So yeah, there are a multitude of reasons that I think this is going to be it. I've also heard other things from other people that I can't say yet, but I do think that this is a move you'll see made. I'm pretty fairly confident. So let's just keep our eye on it. And I'm sure that I don't know how you have these conversations with recruits, if you can at all, because they're at the same time building relationships with these coaches, I'm assuming, or, maybe you're just telling them, hey, talk to Dressler. I'm not sure how you do it, but hopefully hopefully Vicnell doesn't end up being a deal breaker for anybody, but that's a part of it. You kind of just take that with the good with the bad. All right, let's go to break really quick. We'll come right back and look at these PFF scores, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on everything right after the break. This episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by our friends at Game Time. With Game Time, guys, did you know, and maybe you knew, I don't know, I have to ask sometimes, college football is back. Couldn't be more excited about it. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's nothing like it, quite like it at all. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel a lot more like the battle than the game itself. Even with endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping up at checkout, $10, $20 more. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees at checkout. What you see, what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple taps, I saw amazing deals. Favorite college football games for as low as $25. kind of deals. The app made it super simple. I could even see the exact seat from my seat or from my phone before buying. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code Locked On College. You'll get $20 off your first purchase where the terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off today. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Find out the question of all questions. What time is it? It's game time. All right, guys, we're back. Segment 3. Thank you so much for joining in, guys. As far as we'll answer that question in a second. It's a good question. So, Pro Football Focus scores. Somebody asked who the next O-line coach will be. So, yeah, that's a good question. I have to think about that, but yeah, I think for at the end of the day, guys, let's go over these Pro Football Focus grades first. Cam Vaughn led the way on offense with a 70, which is pretty good. Gerard Bowie had a 67, which is above passing. Tykees Crawford had a average day with a 65. Curtis Jones 64.7. Jeff Weimer 64. Scotty Fox had a 63, just below average. Rodney Gallagher 61. Nick Cray 61. Donovan Haslam 60. Lennon Livingston 60. Grayson Barnes 59. Dior Hubbard 58. I don't count that for him. He was really hurt and banged up. Macchioli had a 57. Smith Brown had a 57. Sincere Bowers had 57. Fox 55. Hamilton 54. Barrick 54. Ryan Ward 50. On defense, Marshawn Oxley led the way with a 77.7. As does linebacker Ben Bogle, who couldn't have played a bunch of snaps, 73.3. John Lewis up at a 73. It's nice to see him on there. Eddie V had a 71. Michael Coates had a 68. Reed Carrico, 68. Chris Filippo had a 63. Kikora Tarnu had a 62. Darren Lewis, 60. Gabriel, 60. Siders, 59. Cutter, 58. McIntyre, 56. Chase Wilson had a 55. Jordan Scruggs, 55. Devin Cramp, 53. Fred Perry, 50. Sonny Redwood had a 50.8. Derek Carter, 49.6. Jason Chambers, 49.4. Jamori Robinson, 45.7. Israel Boyce, 44.0. Eddie Kelly, 43.2. How does Jamori Robinson have a 45? It's at this point, guys, it's like solidified. It's not even a question anymore. This dude could go out against Texas Tech and have 5 sacks. And at that point, you've only impacted one game. He's one of the biggest busts in program history. It's not even a question anymore. Up until last game, I was thinking there's 3 games left. Maybe he can make an impact and, get 6 or 7 sacks maybe if he goes on a roll. No, it's not happening. And you watch it on tape. He looks nothing like what he did at UTSA. And here's what happened. The talent level raised up, and it's obviously raised up, and he's not raised with it. So, did he have the ideal start? No, he didn't have the ideal start. He didn't. But it's not even really close. He's one of the biggest busts in the history of our program. So I hate to say that. He's a nice guy. He's got a great story, and I don't want to do all that, but yeah, man, this is a frustrating one for me. So anyways, back to the O-line coach thing. I will just say, obviously there are a couple guys that you could look at. Obviously Matt Moore would make some sense, I think, if you wanted to go back to that, although it would be weird. I get it. It would be weird, but I would take it, especially if you could get some of our transfers back, right? I think you would have a chance at a couple of those guys, but for the most part, he's probably not coming back. Troutwine, the offensive line coach from Penn State, is obviously like a pie in the sky. Like if you can get him, oh my God. take him in a heartbeat kind of deal. Um, yes, somebody's mentioned, or a few people have mentioned, um, you know, the Arkansas coach that just got fired, Sam Pittman. Sure, don't think he would. I mean, he maybe. I don't know how much he knows Rich Rod, to be honest. So obviously Garen Justice is always going to get brought up, but he's at SMU getting paid a lot of money. So do you want to leave Texas, come to West Virginia? Uh, I don't know. And will we pay him that much money? I don't think so. Same thing with Troutwine. Um, there is another guy that I'm really high on. His name is Heffernan, Terry Heffernan. So he is the offensive run game coordinator for Virginia right now. And I love this dude, guys. I do. I love him. I spoke to several guys in the portal. There's a reason Virginia's been so good this year, too. He's a big part of that. They got the big transfer from Louisville to come in as well. They've done a really good job. Let's see what his salary is. He's probably going to get a raise, I would imagine. Let's see. Heffernan, because I'm a big Heffernan guy. I doubt Rich Rod knows him. Who knows? It looks like he's at about 430. So West Virginia could double that for sure. But yeah, there's a bunch of guys out there. I don't, this is part of this, we would have to wait and see what all these jobs end up being. There's so much turnover. I mean, if you look at it, guys, look at all these different jobs that are going to come open. LSU, like there's going to be a ton of offensive line coaches available for the most part, as long as they don't find, anybody else to follow their current coach. Like, would Troutwine follow Franklin? I don't know. But yeah, for me, I would go Heffernan number one on my list. It's just my guy personally. But that's only because I saw it with my own eyes. Recruits telling me in the offseason, whenever West Virginia was recruiting them, and I'll just be honest with you, Will Reed was one that was telling me how good he was. So Will Reed ended up going to Georgia Tech, but Harry Heffernan was doing one hell of a job recruiting him. And he ended up getting a bunch of guys to come to Virginia, and they've really done a great job. So, yeah, that would be one I would look at heavily. But obviously, Rich Rodriguez is a relationships guy. Look at his hires that he makes. He will make the odd hire of somebody he doesn't know, but he prefers for it to be somebody he knows if you look at his history. So I think if I were West Virginia, probably the best thing you could do, if you feel like he's not too old to do it, I would say you go back to the table, and maybe this is not a popular choice, but I would just offer Clint Trickett a job for higher pay to come back to West Virginia. And I really would. And I would also offer him his dad too. Like that's what I would do. I would just go get both Tricketts from Jack State and say, I'm sorry, Jack State. We're going to take both these guys. And then I just double the money and say, here, you're not going to be making less than anybody now. I don't know what else you do. What's he making at, let's see. Probably not very much, maybe 110, 120 grand a year. So let's see. Salary, Jack State. It is 120,000. Okay. So you could easily triple that, quadruple it, give him 500 grand if you think he's worth it. I think he's worth it. Rich Trickett age. He's 77 though. That's the problem for me. It's like 77 is pretty advanced. And you really start to lose some cognitive function at that age. Not everybody does. He could be sharp as a tack, but they would know, right? They would know from talking to him if he can still do it. It's not like you actually have to go block. You just have to be able to verbalize it. That's it. So can you still make relationships at that age? Yeah, you can. Can you still teach at that age? Yeah, you can. for the future of the program, should you invest in somebody a bit younger? Probably. I mean, I would love to see it, but at 77, it's just you're taking a lot of risk there, especially if he gets sick or, you know, there's a lot of things that could go wrong with a hire like that. But at the end of the day, I think it would be something you're excited about, for the next, it's a short term hire. Um, but yeah, I would hire them both and at least for a year or two to get this thing. The thing about no line coaches, it takes, offensive line is literally almost always a 2 or 3 year thing to get a really good one put together, like Matt Moore did for that 2024 offensive line or 23, whichever one or both were good. They started that build in 2019 and it literally took them that long to get there. So I think you look at that as a potential barometer for what you're looking at, even though in the portal area you can do it a little faster. You still have to get the chemistry and get the right players exactly who you want at every spot and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think there's a world where you could bring in a guy like, if Trickett would come from Alabama, I doubt he would. But, outside of him, I really don't know. I trust Rich Rod to make a good hire on it, especially when it's this specific offense. Kind of have to, you want to get a guy that knows it. Maybe you promote Dressler and say, I think he's the future. I have no clue. And maybe that's the cheap way to go. You have to keep these kind of things in mind, but I think I'm good with whatever they do outside of keeping Vicnell. I mean, maybe they turn it around with Vicnell next year and it's just we've been too unfair on him. Maybe that's the case, but I think we should strongly consider the opposite's the case as well, is that he's never won really anywhere he's ever been outside of 8 or 9 games. 9 games is the most, and that happened once. Everywhere else, it's been like 7 games or less. And I get it. It's not all him, obviously, in those situations. But it's like, man, over the course of 30 years, you haven't had a big season anywhere. Offensive line so important to teams. It just makes you wonder. It's like it's a data point that I consider negative. That's it. Along with the room is not exactly happy. A lot of players aren't happy and questioning him as well because they haven't played well this year. You don't think Robbie Martin, a West Virginia native who should be the future at one of the positions, is looking at him with some side eye right now? I don't know. The current O-line is a disaster for the most part. We're barely getting by with it. There's the Malecki stuff we talked about. And then last but not least, the Rich Rod blow up. So there's a bunch of stuff, guys. There's your data points plus what I'm hearing. Hopefully that gives you some directive on what's going to happen. Since my light went dead on me, I guess it's a time to get out of here. Good time to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll be back tomorrow to talk more West Virginia sports as always. Can't wait to see you guys with it here with me. Thank you guys so much for being just amazing in all factors and all ways. And I couldn't do any of this without you. So, and I mean that. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you like and share, subscribe if you're new or anything like that. It says over 80% of people that watch the show don't subscribe, which is a huge number. We're this close to 7,000. Would love to get there and need your help doing it. That's it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. Check out Locked In Big 12 next, and I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Big day today, though. Big Thomas Sadler. That was a big win for West Virginia. We got basketball tomorrow, too. I'll be post-game after Lafayette. If you want some on Lafayette, go watch my last video. We did a little preview on them in the second segment, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.